Okay, so recently I got the question, can XRP go down to $1.20? Can it go to $1.20 before it goes back to all-time high or breaks all-time high? And what do I think is going on with the XRP price? I'd love this question. I'm very happy to answer this question. And I've been thinking about it a little bit. Now, I'm not an XRP holder. There's some things I don't like about the decentralization of the product or who's holding the tokens or how they distribute it on kind of a monthly basis. Some of those things don't really make sense to me as a long-term hold. But if you're looking at XRP, maybe you are a holder, maybe you're speculating, trying to make a move with it. These are the things I think are really important with the XRP token. And I think that are really important to look at for its price right now. I don't think it's going to drop to $1.20. I don't really think that should be your first concern. And if it does happen, I think there's going to be a couple other things that happen before it gets down to $1.20 that you can use in order to identify should you keep investing? Should you wait? Should you hold on? Okay. These are the things I'm looking at on XRP. This is what I think is going on. And yeah, I want to keep it very, very simple. That's what investing should be for you. I think crypto should be a very, very simple investment thesis. And I'm going to break this down as simply as I possibly can after I take a sip of my trusty soda. And also, just before I jump way into this, we have an awesome newsletter down in the description, Crypto 100x Blueprint. You're going to get my 7 steps to 100x this cycle. I still think the cycle is still in play, and I think there's a lot of good information down there that you can read and just read at your leisure, and you'll get an email every week, all right? So there's a few ways I like to look at these cryptocurrencies, whether it's Bitcoin, ADA, XRP, Solana, whatever. And I want to take a long-term time horizon. So I want to stay on the weekly chart, maybe the daily chart at the lowest. I want to use some long-term moving averages, and I just want to see where the different phases of the XRP token are. Okay, that's going to be our first step. And if we zoom out here, this is the whole chart. This is XRP against the dollar traded on Binance. All right, so you can choose a different exchange if you want. It'll give you different volumes down here. You can look at volume because it does become important. So you might want to take that into account. But the first thing I want to look at is where are the stages of XRP's growth and XRP's accumulation and XRP's distribution and XRP falling against the dollar. Okay. Over here, you can see this sideways action right here. This is a great base formation of XRP in 2016. This is called stage 1. Okay, and on here we have the 30-week in orange and the 40-week moving average in blue. Now, stage 1 is typically characterized as a base that price uses before an upwards trajectory. This is a stage 1. Upwards trajectory is a stage 2. The top is a stage 3. Now with XRP, this stage 3 goes really, really quickly, and it's very hard to even tell that this is a stage 3. But this is a stage 3, and then stage 4 is when the price moves below the moving averages and falls. Okay, this is all stage 4 right here. Back in the 2017 or back in 2018, 2019. Okay, and so then here we went stage 1 again, a new base, a stage 2, which was a small stage 2 because it was that 2021 fiasco of information around XRP. Stage 3 was up here at the top again. You can see it's flirting with the moving averages and it's starting to fall into the moving averages and then crosses below. This is stage 3. Stage 4 is the fall. Okay. Then now we have our current cycle that we're in. This is really the base level of the stage 1, but you can see how much broader this stage 1 was brought on, or failed to kind of get above the moving averages in durable fashion. So this is still your stage 1, and now we've started stage 2 for XRP. Okay, so in a stage 2 for XRP, what I'm looking at here is, can XRP's price stay above the 30-week and the 40-week moving averages? This is very important because it confirms that we are still in the stage 2, whether it's late stage 2, mid stage 2, or early stage 2. At this point, it's kind of hard to tell. We just don't have a ton of information. I would say it's probably mid stage 2. And what we want to see, if we want XRP to keep going up, is to stay above the moving averages, stay above the 30-week, stay above the 40-week, and keep heading upwards. That is classic stage 2 behavior. Let me show you back here in 2017. What I think this pivot could be is possibly something similar to this that happened in 2017. You can see here how XRP was in a stage 1, came into stage 2, did this bull flag. This would be considered a bull flag into the moving averages before heading up for its next stage 2 rise. This would be about a mid stage 2. This would be late stage 2, and then it moves into stage 3. Okay, so that's very important in my opinion to figure out where XRP is in the current cycle. So here, I think what's really interesting is that XRP is above its moving average. Moving averages of 30-week and 40-week, right? Those are the ones I think are important for long-term trend analysis. And it is just building a beautiful bull flag here between these two, between this support and this resistance. Now, why do I think XRP is not going to go to 120? Well, because I think in order for XRP to go to 120, you're going to get a lot of signals that need to be validated before that happens. First, XRP is going to have to break this 2021 high. Right, it's going to have to break its support and turn it into resistance by breaking down here. After that, then it's going to have to break the moving averages. If it happens a couple weeks down the line, these could be up here or somewhere in there. But XRP is rolling into a massive amount of support here with these moving averages and with this support band of this region of the previous 2021 high. Okay, that's going to give it a lot of support to stay above here. But if it does start to break below, we're going to get plenty of time and plenty of information and plenty validation before we get to 120. So 120 is not a big deal for me. It doesn't seem like a big spot. Now 120 is a great level because it kind of cuts through here where you can see these green retracements back up in both 2018 and 2021 cycles. So if we did get a push down to 120, we could see a bounce off of it back up to the moving averages. All right, that could kind of confirm stage 3, whether we stay in a stage 3 or start to head to stage 4. Okay, but what I'm looking at on XRP here is one, those moving averages. I think XRP is very bullish because it maintains the moving averages and looks like it's trying to build a bull flag similar to what it did over here before its next leg up. The second thing I think is really important for the XRP chart is that we have this 2021 region of high between the wick and the close that it is using as support. We have the 2017, 2018. You see how I have the close and the wick, and that it is using as a resistance. And so what I think is happening here on the XRP chart is that it is building a beautiful consolidation between these two parts while the crypto market decides what it wants to do next. I think we have some good things and some bad things going on. We have good things with the Federal Reserve lowering quantitative tightening, almost eliminating it. And I think many people think that by the summer, QT could be fully over. Some other good news for XRP is that they have officially won their long-term lawsuit with the SEC. So they don't have that black cloud over them anymore, right? This is very big news and we've seen this happen all year because of the new administration and how they're treating crypto and what the SEC is doing, kind of getting a lot of mixed up, right? And so that means that XRP has the ability to continue, has the ability to not be inhibited by lawsuits, has the ability to go up with the crypto markets. Some of the negative news going on is obviously the wars, the possible trade wars, the possible China invading Taiwan, the possible recession in America, the possible tariffs, right? All of these things, and just kind of the overall uncertainty. The current administration is a very uncertain, chaotic administration, and it's very hard to tell what's going on. What's going on with Elon Musk? What's going on with Donald Trump? What's going on with Ukraine, Zelensky, and Russia, and all that? You can find a narrative for any reason to be bearish, okay? I'm going to choose to be bullish because the price is showing me that XRP's at this support. It has resistance, which is why it's been holding off, and it has some good moving averages that are long-term stage analysis showing that it could be in a mid-stage 2 bull flag, possibly heading into another stage 2 leg up. And it's just a good consolidation. This is a good consolidation point for XRP. And I think a lot of traders would find this as a great entry if XRP meets the moving averages and then continues higher on high volume. One of the great things about what's going on here is that volume is actually, you can see how big volume is as it's moving up here, and then it's shrinking through the bull flag. What you can technically see is when volume shrinks, that means there's not a lot of buyers and sellers. That means the market is finding a big price, and then there's not a lot of XRP on the open market, and then sellers are kind of exhausted. And then when a big buy comes in, it will pump the price massively again. You can see the same thing happening right here before this massive XRP pump. Same thing happens on the ATH chart. Same thing happens on the Bitcoin chart. It's very repeatable. And you can see how when we enter a stage 1, right? This is stage 4 decline, volumes coming down. Enter a stage 1 is accompanied by a decrease in volatility. So over the stage 1, volatility is decreasing. You see not volatility, volume. Okay, so we have volume here, but over the stage 1, volume is shrinking. Over here, volume is about half of what it is over here. And right here, when volume is at its ultimate lowest, that is when XRP decides to make the move upwards, okay? And so I would not be scared to have this massive, this is an institutional level volume buy here. About $1 billion in a day of XRP being moved. Very hard for retail to do that when you see this is what retail has been doing. Retail did, 200 million and 300 million, right? And so this is a much larger buy, signaling that something else is helping XRP go up. And then after you have these large candles up, it's very, very commonplace to see lower levels of volume, and it's especially good to have red days that are lower levels of volume compared to the green days. Green days having high volume, sell days having low volume. This is a good position I think XRP is in, and I would not be surprised to see it go up whenever the rest of the crypto market decides to go up. Now, all that's good. I don't think you have to worry about the $1.20. I don't think XRP is going to retrace to $1.20. And if it does, we're going to have a lot of indicators before then, because it will fall through this support and it will fall through these moving averages. So we'll have a lot of information before that happens. Second, if you're wondering, well, how do we know if XRP is topped out and is going to go into a stage 3? What I would look for is a classic distribution across the moving averages. And this is how this looks. You can see that XRP is right here, stage 2, riding the moving averages, and then it starts to come into the moving averages and starts to chop up and down between the moving averages. This is the 30 and 40 week. When those 30 and 40 weeks start to cross right here, that is a classic stage 3 leading into a stage 4. This is about mid stage 3, this is late stage 3, and this is stage 4. And so what I would look for is, if you do not believe or do not agree with what I'm saying, or think that maybe there could be alternate possibilities, which there always can be, is that if you think XRP is going to go down, I would look for a stage 3 development. What could happen is the price could just sit here, moving averages could come up, and price could cut through the moving averages. That could cause a start of stage 3. I've been watching the same thing on Bitcoin. I've been watching the same thing on Cardano. I think XRP is in a great spot right now, and it looks like it's trying to make a good recovery. If you want to see if a stage 3 is going to start, which will lead to a stage 4, watch these moving averages. If the moving averages cross, or if XRP crosses the moving averages, that is another level of conversation. But this is what I'm watching on XRP. I don't really think $1.20 is in the cards. I think XRP is doing very well to hold here at 2, and I wouldn't be surprised if it got up to something around, I forget what I made my price prediction around. Maybe it was around like $5 or $10, somewhere up there. Maybe 20 at the top. Something about, it depends on how much market dominance it has. We'll save that for another video, but XRP market dominance, I could definitely see getting up to $5 or $10, I think, if I remember my XRP price prediction correctly. This is what's going on with XRP. If you want to learn more about how I do stage analysis or any other crypto stuff, down in the description, Crypto 100X Blueprint, feel free to join us there. We'd love to have you. We appreciate everyone, and we're writing a lot of good information down there that I think will help most people, all right? Hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more XRP content, more Cardano content, more Bitcoin content, drop us a subscribe.